I never thought I'd be the guy to get blindsided like this, but here I am. My name's Jake, and I've been with my wife, Emily, for about 4 years now. We've always seemed solid, couple of goofs, good friends, settled into a pretty normal life. We had our ups and downs, sure, but nothing that screamed betrayal or that I'd be writing a story like this today. We were planning our wedding, trying to get everything perfect, and I thought everything was just fine. It all started a few weeks ago when I noticed Emily acting a little weird. Nothing obvious, but it was enough to make me suspicious. She'd pick her phone up and then quickly put it down when I walked into the room, or she'd get these secretive texts at odd hours and mutter some excuse about work. Honestly, I was too busy with work myself to pay much attention, and I figured maybe she was just stressed or busy. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Then came the small things. Her perfume smelled different, more seductive, and she started dressing more provocatively when she went out to meet her friends. She'd come home late more often, and the way she'd avoid eye contact with me sometimes made my stomach turn. I started catching her in little lies, and it annoyed me how she'd brush it off or act like I was overreacting. She's always been a bit bitchy when she's caught in a lie, but this time she was extra condescending, like I was the one being paranoid. I told myself I was just imagining things, but deep down I knew I was. One night I was scrolling through her phone while she was in the shower. I know, it's probably a bad move, but I was desperate for answers. I saw a series of texts between her and my boss, Mark. They weren't just friendly "how are you" messages. No, they were flirty as hell, talking about meeting up for a real good time and sharing pics that I honestly wish I hadn't seen. My stomach dropped. It was clear then she'd been lying to my face, sleeping with my boss, Mark. The guy I grew up with, trusted, respected. That's when I felt like the ground was just crumbling beneath me. I couldn't believe it. My wife had been fucking my boss, who also happens to be my childhood friend. I'd be lying if I said I didn't feel a mix of rage and heartbreak. I mean, how do you process something like that? It's like the most twisted betrayal you can imagine. I felt sick, betrayed, angry, and utterly useless all at once. I stayed up all night, staring at that phone, trying to wrap my head around what I just found out. And I knew I had to confront her. I couldn't keep pretending everything was fine anymore. The morning after I found those texts, I knew I couldn't keep pretending like I didn't see anything. My mind was racing. I felt like I was walking around in a fog, every thought clouded by the betrayal I just uncovered. Emily was still asleep, curled up in our bed, acting innocent or maybe just pretending to be. The girl who had been so bitchy and dismissive when I brought up my suspicions was now just laying there, oblivious or maybe just good at hiding her guilt. Either way, I couldn't hold back any longer. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at her. My heart was pounding. I thought, how do I even start this? I didn't want to yell, I didn't want to make her feel cornered, but I also knew I couldn't just let her keep lying. So I took a deep breath and said, "Emily, I saw the messages, the ones between you and Mark." She froze for a second, then rolled over, trying to act like she didn't hear me. That only made me angrier. I stepped closer, voice steady but filled with coldness. "Come on, Emily. How long has this been going on? How long have you been lying to my face?" Her eyes widened and she sat up, pretending to look surprised. "What? That's ridiculous, Jake. You're overthinking things. You're just jealous or insecure, whatever you want to call it." I couldn't believe her. That's when I saw the bitchy side come out again. "Jealous? Are you serious? You've been fucking my boss, my friend, and now you're telling me I'm the insecure one. Are you fucking kidding me?" She scoffed, crossing her arms. "Look, I don't owe you any explanations. Mark and I, we just—" She paused, then added with a sneer, "we just have a connection. It's not what you think. You're overreacting as usual." I felt my blood boil. How could she be so blatant, so dismissive? I saw red. I wanted to shake her, make her see how badly she'd hurt me, but I kept my voice steady. "That's bullshit, Emily. I trusted you. I thought we had something real. And you sleeping with my boss, my childhood friend. How do you even look at yourself in the mirror?" She rolled her eyes. "Oh, please, save the drama. You think I've never had guys after me? Mark's not special. And honestly, I don't owe you an explanation for my life. Maybe if you paid attention, you'd see I was unhappy and I needed something else." That one hit me hard. She was good at twisting the knife. I couldn't believe I married someone who'd been hiding this from me all along. My mind was spinning. I wanted to scream, punch something, cry. I didn't know what I felt most. It was a mix of betrayal, sadness, and pure rage. I knew I had to get out of that room, get some space to think. I told her I needed to go for a walk. But inside, I knew this wasn't going to just blow over. This was the beginning of something much darker, and I had no idea how I was going to come back from this. After I left the bedroom, I just paced around the apartment trying to process everything. My hands were shaking, and I couldn't stop thinking about how Emily could be so callous, so indifferent to what she'd done. I kept replaying her words, her dismissiveness, the way she brushed off the betrayal like it was nothing. It was like she didn't even care that she'd shattered everything I believed in. I called my buddy Mike, who's been my best friend since childhood. I needed him to hear this straight from me. I told him everything, about the texts, Emily's reaction, how betrayed I felt. Mike was stunned, but honestly, he was furious too. Said I should confront her again, make her own up, and figure out what the hell I wanted to do. I agreed, but inside I was already starting to realize that there might be no coming back from this. Not really. A few hours later, I decided I couldn't wait anymore. I went back home, determined to get some answers. Emily was in the living room, acting like she hadn't just blown my entire world apart. She was scrolling through her phone, acting innocent like she was the victim here. When I saw her, I just lost it. "You lied to me," I said, voice trembling with anger. "You told me everything was fine. You told me you loved me, but you've been sleeping with Mark this whole time." I could feel my face flush, my fists clenched. "How long has this been going on? Since when?" She looked up at me, her eyes narrowing. "What are you talking about? I don't owe you any explanations. You're just being paranoid. Mark and I were just friends. You're overreacting again." Her tone was bitchy, dismissive, like I was the crazy one. I took a step closer, trying to keep my voice steady. "Don't lie to me, Emily. I saw the messages, all of it. How you've been sneaking around, hiding things. How you've been pretending everything's fine when you've been screwing around behind my back." Her face twisted into that smug, self-righteous look she always used when she thought she was right. "You're so insecure, Jake. Honestly, you're just overreacting. Mark and I, we have a thing, but it doesn't mean anything. You're making this into a big deal. You always do." That was when I realized she was never going to own up. She was never going to admit what she'd done. Instead, she was just going to keep lying and calling me insecure. It was like talking to a wall, only worse because this wall was her. I felt the tears forming, but I clenched my jaw. I wasn't going to cry over her. Not now. Not ever. The betrayal hit me like a punch to the stomach. I'd trusted her, I'd loved her, and now I felt like I didn't even know her. It was a sick, sinking feeling. I knew my mind was made up, but I didn't want to make a rash decision. I needed time to think, to breathe. I told her I was leaving for a while just to get some space. And as I walked out that door, I knew everything had changed forever. That night, I stayed at a friend's place trying to clear my head. I couldn't sleep. My mind kept replaying everything, her sneering lies, her dismissive attitude, the way I'd been so blind to her bullshit for so long. I kept thinking about how she's always been bitchy when she didn't get her way, how she'd manipulate situations to make herself look innocent, even when she knew she was caught. Now I saw through all that, and honestly, it hurt worse than I thought possible. The next day, I started to think about what I wanted to do. Part of me wanted to just cut her out completely, cut her out of my life and forget I ever knew her. But another part, the stupid part, still loved her, still thought maybe there was a way to salvage what little remained. I knew deep down that trust was gone, completely. She lied so much I don't think I could ever believe anything she said again. I spent the rest of the day trying to figure out my next move. I kept asking myself, do I confront Mark? Do I call off the wedding? Do I just disappear and start over? It was all so overwhelming, but I knew I had to be clear-headed. I couldn't keep going in circles. Later that evening, I decided to do some more digging. I wanted to see if there was more to her lies. I checked her social media, her emails, anything I could find. It wasn't long before I uncovered more. There were other messages between her and Mark, more flirty texts, plans for secret meetups, even some suggestive photos. It wasn't just a one-time thing. This was a full-blown affair. I felt my stomach turn again. How long had she been cheating on me? How many lies did I unknowingly walk around with? That night, lying in bed, All the anger and sadness hit me like a freight train. I realized I'd been a fool for trusting her, for believing we had something real. All those years I invested, all those promises we made, she'd been hiding this side of herself the entire time. I started to think about the future. Could I forgive her? Could I ever rebuild what she destroyed? Honestly, I didn't know. All I knew was that I couldn't keep pretending everything was okay anymore. I needed to decide what I was going to do, and fast. The days that followed were the hardest of my life. I couldn't focus at work. I couldn't sleep, and every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face, that smug look she gave me when she was lying. I felt like I'd been sucker punched, and the pain just kept swelling. The betrayal wasn't just emotional. It was a punch to the gut, a blow to my self-esteem, and a total attack on everything I thought I knew about my marriage and my best friend. I'd spent hours trying to decide whether I should confront Mark or just cut him out of my life entirely. Honestly, part of me wanted to do something reckless, go to his house, yell at him, maybe even threaten him. But I knew that wouldn't help. The truth was, I felt so humiliated and used that I just wanted to disappear for a while. I needed to figure out if I could even trust myself to make rational decisions. One afternoon, I finally decided I had to talk to Emily again. One last time, maybe, to get real answers. It was the most nerve-wracking thing I'd ever done. I called her, told her I was coming over. When I saw her again, she looked annoyed, like I was bothering her. I felt my chest tighten. I knew she was probably going to deny everything, but I couldn't keep pretending I didn't know the truth. She opened the door with that familiar smirk, trying to act like everything was normal. I didn't hold back. I told her I knew she'd been cheating, that I'd uncovered her secret messages, her secret meetings. Then I asked her flat out, "Are you still sleeping with Mark? Are you still lying to me?" Her eyes flashed with that bitchy glare she always used when she was angry or defensive. "Wow, Jake, you're really obsessed with my private stuff, huh? Just because you snooped around doesn't mean you have the right to accuse me of anything. Maybe I'm just tired of your paranoia." I felt my jaw clench. "Don't bullshit me, Emily. I saw the messages. I know what's been going on, so don't pretend you're the victim here." She scoffed and looked away. "You're so insecure, Jake. Of course you're upset. But honestly, you're just jealous. Mark and we have a connection. It doesn't mean I love you any less. You're overreacting." That was the last straw. I realized then that she wasn't going to change, wasn't going to be honest. No matter how much I wanted to believe she'd come clean, she was just going to lie until I'd finally had enough. And I knew I'd reached that point. I told her I was done, that I wanted a divorce, and I left that day knowing my life was never going to be the same again. The betrayal was too deep, and I knew it would take a long, painful time to even begin to heal from this. In the weeks that followed, I cut ties with Emily completely. The house felt emptier than ever, and every corner echoed with memories I couldn't escape. I threw myself into work, trying to drown out the pain, but inside I was a mess. The trust was shattered, and I kept asking myself how I could have been so blind. How did I miss all the signs? How could Emily, the girl I loved, lie and cheat so blatantly, and then dismiss me like I was nothing? Some days I'd get angry, furious at her for lying, at Mark for being a snake, at myself for not seeing it sooner. Other days I'd just feel numb, lost in a fog of regret and disbelief. I kept replaying everything, the good times, the bad, and now, the terrible betrayal that overshadowed it all. I thought about reaching out to her, trying to get some closure, but I knew that wouldn't fix anything. It would just reopen wounds I wasn't ready to face again. Eventually, I realized I had to accept what was done. I couldn't undo her lies or erase the hurt, but I could choose to move forward. I started going to therapy because I knew I needed help processing what had happened. Slowly, I began to understand that some betrayals cut too deep, and not every marriage is salvageable once trust is broken. It was hard, and the scars would stay for a long time, but I owed it to myself to rebuild. Looking back, I learned a lot. I learned that no matter how much you think you know someone, they can surprise you in the worst way possible. I learned not to ignore the small signs of trouble, and definitely not to ignore my gut instinct. Most importantly, I learned that sometimes the best thing you can do is cut your losses and walk. away before the pain becomes unbearable. To anyone out there going through something similar, trust your feelings, don't brush off the red flags, and never let anyone make you doubt your worth. Love is supposed to be honest and respectful, not built on lies and betrayal. I may never fully forget what happened, but I'll keep moving forward. Because at the end of the day, you have to choose yourself and your sanity over someone who doesn't deserve your trust.